Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very warm welcome to everyone out there attending this webinar, and a special warm welcome to our guest speakers. Prof, that this would be a very interesting session on Waqf in Zanzibar. Now, we all know that throughout the world, Waqf is actually becoming more and more known and more prominent in terms of its application, in terms of knowledge. But we'd also like to know that there are very old historical waqfs in the world, and Zanzibar is one of those mystic and exotic places which lots of people think of, for a holiday. I believe that, Zanzibar has got a rich history of Awqaf and of Waqf in that country. So without much ado, we'll have our first speaker, Professor Hikmany, who's actually the chairman of the Zanzibar Waqf Commission. And by the way, we are bringing this program to you in collaboration with the Zanzibar Waqf Commission, the CIFCA group that's based in Tanzania, Awqaf South Africa, World Awqaf Forum, and the Waqf Dialogue Forum. So all these groups together, alhamdulillah, are bringing all these Waqf programs to you, the listener and the viewer out there. So Professor Hikmany also has a PhD. He's been with this Waqf Commission chairman for 3 years and many more years as member of the board. And of course, he's got a keen interest in this whole topic of Waqf. So I'm not going to, he's got a very long CV. He's got lots of publications to his name. And I'm sure he's a very accomplished person in his own right. And so are our other guests there. But we'll hand over now to Professor Hikmany. Over to you, brother Professor Hikmany.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, hamdan yuwafi ni'amahu wa yukafi mazidah. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us this opportunity to talk about Awqaf in Zanzibar. And the main purpose is knowledge, information and knowledge sharing, experience sharing. That's very important so that we learn from one another. It doesn't at all mean that I'm the most learned person in this area, but it's a way of sharing information. And this is very important. And I'm greatly honored to be here with you. And we'll start our presentation by briefly talking about the history of Awqaf in Zanzibar, which actually started around 1830. 1830, during the time of the Sultan of Oman. As you know, he had his headquarters in Zanzibar, and at that time, Awqaf started. Then the period when the British colonial rule came to power, and what happened during this period, we'll look into that very briefly. And the term from 1964 onwards, a lot of interventions took place. Some were negative, some were positive. We look into those, and then we look at the challenges, and we suggest measures to overcome the challenges. And finally, way forward, what should be done to improve Awqaf Zanzibar for the future? Okay. This, you see, is an old mosque, a very old mosque called Masjid Minara. Awqaf is very important aspect of economic development in any country. The aim is to improve the socio-economic welfare of the entire community. And what is Awqaf? Simple is an endowment from donated properties, movable or immovable, which do generate revenue and are directed towards beneficiaries. In many cases, beneficiaries are in two categories: those that are currently available and those that would be available in the future. What does this mean? This means those are available for which the Waqf has assigned them to benefit. And when these do depart the world, others will follow. So the Awqaf is a perpetual donation, is a perpetual benefit to the community day on, day in, day on. Okay. Now let's look at this period during the Sultan period, when the Awqaf was started officially. During this period, the ulama and the sheikhs were highly respected, and they constituted the main committee that make decision on Awqaf. They were responsible to make decisions, to advise, and they were also a minister responsible for Awqaf. That's roughly the period of 30 years. Then there was a drafted the purpose. What is the use of Awqaf? 5 main areas were noted down. One is the Awqaf to be trustees, the caretakers on properties. Number two, to safeguard and develop Muslim properties. And thirdly, to develop religious, specifically Islamic activities. And fourth, to develop education and other social programs. And lastly, finally, to reduce poverty in the society in general and for the Muslims in particular. When poverty is reduced in society, it benefits the entire community, not only Muslims, but even non-Muslims. When education develops in society, education has a split of effects. So the entire community benefits. When religious institutions are developed, there is worship. When they worship, there's barakah. The barakah splits over to the entire community. When properties are safeguarded, there's perpetuity in terms of the benefits. And when the properties are being taken care, then there is a surety of their benefit. So these 5 main purposes are broader than the way they stand on my paper. Now let's look at the British period from another period of 30 years. It was during the Sudan period, but the British were the colonial part. During this time, there were negative intervention in the sense that most of the revenues were dedicated for social development during the Sudan rule, were then redirected to general government projects and programs. And there was introduction of legal framework for Awqaf. The first one was 1902, 1959, where it became a rule to register all properties, whether Waqf, trusts, mirath, or those specifically dedicated for Islamic cause. And from period 1901 to 1903, wills involving Awqaf and trust were recorded, currently located at the Zanzibar Institute of Archives and Museums. Anyone want to do research, these are available, and there's a lot to write about Zanzibar during this 60 period. Now, after 1964, there were drastic changes where all Awqaf properties were placed under the Administrator General and new decrees were made. Unfortunately, during this period, we witnessed an improper management of some of Awqaf and trust properties. The other negative aspect was that some wills were not adequately enforced. And unfortunately, there was a loss or misplacement of documents and records. This aspect is very serious because it reduces the use of benefits for dedicated purpose. Because if you don't have the documents, you don't know who the beneficiaries, you know where to send the money, and of course, mismanagement takes place. This is unfortunately very bad. The other aspect which is negative, because of those happenings, registration of new Awqaf and trust inheritance at this period slowed down. People had little confidence on the Administrator General to manage the Awqaf. During the period 1968 to 1976, this document displacement became serious. And some buildings were converted to public offices, private use, and some were even not habitable, unfortunately. Some farmlands went into private illegal management, and beneficiaries lost claims and revenues. A very sad fact is that few mosques were completely destroyed or collapsed beyond replacement. Now, the government realized the mistake. In 1977, the research committee was commissioned and a dialogue was held between ulamas and imams on the best way to improve the management of and repossession of work and trust assets. This was a positive move. Either the dialogue touched on valuation of confiscated assets with possible compensation mechanisms. And the Awqaf management was restructured. In the beginning, chairman of the board was the Chief Qadi from 1980 onwards. And from 2001, the law changed the Mufti of Zanzibar with the chairman of Awqaf. In 2007, a new act came to place where the chairman of the Waqf is appointed by the president among the land person with record performance. I happen to be the chairman now, taking off from Dr. Ziddy. We're not the best, not that we're the best, no. Just we were lucky to be sitting on this position where my teacher and my Sheikh Musa Makungu, was chairing in the 80s. I cannot say I'm parallel to Sheikh Musa Makungu, never. But we're just lucky to be here sitting in the chair. From 1993, it was ruled out to return all confiscated properties, particularly farmland and plots, to the original owners, or to Waqf Interest Commission, including those under public use. This is a positive step taken by the government. Now, the Act of Waqf Commission went further to grant the Commission an autonomous status where they have the power to deal matters among themselves. The board is the main decision-making instrument to make the Waqf Commission function. During this period, a study was conducted from 1928 to 2012, where 868 records were involved. It was found that 1,023 assets have the following data. Awqaf properties, you can see in the blue, 20%. Farmland, large portion of the Awqaf, the farmland, 806, which is 70% of the Awqaf assets. And plots, 29%, very small. Water wells and mosques are much smaller. This research reveals that there is a serious omission, because Zanzibar has many mosques which are registered at Awqaf. And nearly 80% of the mosques have wells besides, which are Awqaf. So the data here is a beginning of inventory taking, and the Awqaf Commission will do another research to make the data more comprehensive so that all assets are properly recorded. Besides this improvement, revenues and expenditures have been streamlined and directed for improvement of Awqaf and trust properties. From July 2019 to March 2020, a total of 432 million shillings, 700, which is roughly, how much is? You can convert data in dollar by 2,300 shillings per dollar. This was spent for renovation, maintenance, or major repairs. In the same period, a collection of 343 million was made, comparing the expenses that were made on the properties and the revenue collected, the deficit of 88 million. So the Awqaf cannot cover its expenses. Why this? Because most of the properties are in the old stone town where the lease rent is very, very low. It's historical. This will change. Another improvement was made was that Awqaf activities are now separated from the main Islamic functions. Hence, there is a full dedicated department known as Department of Work and Trust. This is the structure now. With Department of Work and Trust, with the two main division of administration and the beneficiaries, and division of administration, supervision of assets. Under the division of administration and beneficiaries, we have a unit of registration documentation and coordination of beneficiaries. Under the division of administration supervision of assets, we have two units, that inspection, supervision, and assets, and conservation and development of assets. In this way now, the Waqf department will be putting all its effort on the Waqf and trust properties. And the religious activities will be in other department. So they have more time now to deal with Waqf, and we hope that management will be improving in the coming years. Now let's look at the challenge very briefly. Misplaced documents.
Can I maybe
what should be done?
And say that we maybe stop here for a moment. I don't know how many more slides you have, but we could come back to, I think it's a very important area that you touched now, but if we can come back to this challenges and proposed interventions, because I'm sure that Dr. Issa Ziddy and Dr. Ussi Abdallah will also have some points to mention here. Is that okay?
That's very important. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So keep that when we start again. I think because that's one of the questions that will be posed to you as well. What are the challenges and future prospects? So maybe you can keep that slide open and tell Adil to help you there. We can come back to that one there. Okay. So Jazakallah for that introduction and that very interesting history of Waqf in Zanzibar. I think that from the Sultanate era, I beg your pardon, and with the nationalization and how during the British period funds were actually used for developmental purposes or government projects. I think that was probably a clear violation of the waqfiyah of all the people, all the donors that made those waqfs, and that the rightful beneficiaries were not actually getting their share of the benefits. But I think I'm going to go on to Dr. Issa Ziddy now, who is also a PhD graduate, and he's been involved with Waqf affairs for many, many years as well. He also attended the International Waqf Conference that we had in South Africa, in Cape Town in 2007. And he's got a lot of experience teaching at the university as well. So I think without much ado, we will ask Dr. Issa Ziddy to comment a little bit on Professor Hikmany's presentation and to add to his and to make your inputs as well on the Waqf in Zanzibar. Over to you, brother.
Okay, Asante, thank you very much. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah that I have this chance now to speak with the audience here. First of all, many thanks to Professor Hikmany, who used the part of his hikmah to present this perfect topic, especially when he divided the issue of Waqf in Zanzibar into three main phases. The Sultan phase, the British phase, but also the independence phase. But on my side, I think it would be better if we can add another phase, and this must be the first one. So Sultan phase must be the second, and British the third, and the fourth is the after independence. And we can name it that Waqf before 1832, because Waqf Zanzibar is old as the establishment of Islam. Islam, when arrived in Zanzibar in 7th century, it came with many parts of Islam, including ibadat, but also Waqf is part of that. And we realize that there are mosques in Pemba, in Rasum Kubu, Pemba was built in 8th century. The remaining are still there. But we have another mosque, content mosque, still working. It was built in 11th century, Christian era. So that time is the time where also Waqf started in Zanzibar. But as we say that the challenge for Muslims in Zanzibar was that they were not recording what is happening there. And this was said by the author of History of Zanzibar. His name is Said Ali ibn Mughairi. His book name is Juhanatul Akhbar fi Tarikh Zanzibar, History of Zanzibar. He wrote that Zanzibar ancestors did not see the importance of recording their activities except a few of them. And this is why all our histories depend on European sources, which sometimes is not correct. And as we understand that Europeans started to come and stay in Zanzibar after 1832. They were there during the period of before British. But after that, they came in Zanzibar from 1832 when Said Said made the Zanzibar the capital of his empire, which was Oman, capital of Zanzibar and Oman. And Zanzibar was part of, it was started in the south from Mozambique and north to Somalia. So, and also part of interior of Africa, like Burundi, Congo, and also Rwanda was part of Zanzibar. The flag of Zanzibar at that time was there. So the Zanzibar was very rich that time, and businesses and goods from that area all came to Zanzibar, and Zanzibar was a commercial and business place for that, and also was part of Islamic knowledge also. So here it started, and then here we came to Sultan period, 1832, where we can call his time as Renaissance period. The first time we can call established period, but for Sultan we can call Renaissance, because he came and built the stone town here and many mosques. And when he was here as a leader, many community came from outside, Indians and other places, Indians, Europeans, and all the world. And they established their communities. So you'll find in Zanzibar we have Awqaf of communities, Shia, Sharia, they have Waqf, but also Hindu, Sunni, Muslim Jamaat, they established Waqf, Comorian also established Waqf. So there are a lot of Waqf. But we, as the Professor said, we had Wazir al-Awqaf, the one who was appointed to see how Waqf is going. And good thing is that that time Zanzibar was I don't know if the word is good, it was like a virgin time, it's a Newfoundland. So they established many plantations, and it's the thing is that even some towns now that are in Zanzibar, like Chake Chake and Pemba, all the town was part of Waqf, but now became people are living there. So after that, there came the time of British time from 1890, and that time was not good because we can call it stagnation period, or in Arabic, rukud period. There is no any development because British has a full control over all Waqf properties, and then British resident has a mandate of nominating Waqf commissioners. In 1916, Board of Waqf Commission had 4 British officers who were not Muslim, but also only 2 Qadis, Qadi of Sunni Qadi and also Ibadi Qadi. And one strange thing was that during the World War I, the First World War, they wanted to use, because the Waqf fund was a huge fund. So they want to use fund to help the British in the war. So they call a meeting of the Waqf Commissioners Board. But those 2 Muslims, they refused that agenda. But because British were 4 people, so they say, okay, now we are 4, we are many, if you compare with those 2. So they used the fund of Waqf in Zanzibar to the war. So this is how Waqf was in that time. The last period, which I can say the 4th one, was after independence. In independence, we can divide it in 2 periods. The first one was, we can say, it's like a collapse of the Waqf, because there's a control of revenue of Waqf, but also re-abolish the creation of Waqf Ahli, and also nationalization, as you said, also. But also that time, Zanzibar cut the diplomatic relation with Muslim countries and also Arabian countries. Even Arabic language was not taught there, was not taught again. So after that, in 1972, the last phase was, we can call it revival period. Here, new Waqf Commission was established, and also new laws was put there, and many young blood to maintain it was there. And until today, the thing is going. And Alhamdulillah, this is what I wanted to add from the Prophet Hikmany's talk, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, Jazakallah khairan, thank you so much. I think I also noticed that the one period that was missing from Professor Hikmany, with respect, is the pre-Sultanate period.
Yeah.
And I'm really actually amazed that you're saying that Islam came to Zanzibar as early as the 7th century, and already people were engaged in Waqf making and building mosques and so forth. So that is really a fascinating part of Zanzibar history, actually, and part of the Waqf history. Can we go back to Professor Hikmany and let him start off with that, where he was talking about the challenges and future prospects, because I think that's a very important question.
Whenever you do anything, there ought to be difficulties and challenges. So the challenge, one of the main challenges, is documentation. And how can we overcome this? Is to enhance our documentation search in all possible areas. The work is started. Number 2, most properties are situated in the old stone town of Zanzibar, where accessibility is limited, and hence rehabilitation costs are extremely high. How to overcome this? Number 1, to introduce commercial halal joint venture schemes for building, rehabilitation, and conservation. Secondly, the Waqf and Trust Commission should establish working relationship with Zanzibar Investment Promotion Authority, so that they can get private investors instead of the Waqf to spend its resources. The third challenge is that the Waqf and Trust Commission lacks adequate investment skills. And this is why I'm saying that they should have joint ventures or partnership with Zanzibar Promotion Investment, Zanzibar Investment Promotion Authority, so that they can seek partnership and rehabilitation of properties. The other area is let me go on the next slide. Stakeholders have low understanding on the role of Waqf and trust. What should be done? There should be a continuous campaign on the spiritual significance of Awqaf and its implication to the socio-economic well-being of societies. Number 5, coordination among different stakeholders and the Outside Commission still lags behind. What should be done? Awareness campaign is necessary, using social media, gathering in the form of seminars, workshops, and publications. Number 6, We don't know the value of the property, total, we don't know. So valuation is another challenge, extremely delayed. Now, the Work Commission should include valuation activity is among the core functions under inspection and supervision of assets, not that to wait until they want it, but this should be a continuous activities under this department. Let's look at the future now. Suggestion: we should apply istisna or build, operate, transfer as a way of financial support from the private sector or public institutions. Number two, to consider applying musharaka mutanakhisa, that is build, lease, transfer, where investors finance restoration, rehabilitation, or another form of maintaining work assets. The lease fee is sorted out in two parts, where the Waqf has one portion, investor on the portion. When the time finished, the property is handed over to the Waqf Commission. Here we have 4 photographs. If you look on the left, top left, you see the kind of what should I say, situation with all buildings. Some are falling down and some are about to fall down. But the picture below is what has been done by the Commission, restoration. This is a very old building, old dispensable building, renovated, put in proper use, now leased to private investors that shop their offices and generating income. On the top right, this is Tabarruat. The Waqf Commission goes around and looks at the poor, donates food and other essential items. And you can see the person handling is one of the disabled persons. And the photograph below is the farmland, and we are now putting new plants so that the farmland will be generating income. Well, Jazakallah khair for listening, and let me hand over to Brother Zainuddin for further management of this seminar. Jazakallah khair, shukran.
Barakallahu feek, Jazakallahu khairan for that very interesting presentation. And also, it again reflects the issue about awareness and how ignorant people are today about the Waqf system, and how we should be educating more and more people about this Waqf system. And it seems to be more of a universal problem, not only in Zanzibar, but many other countries. So I have a question here. What are the proposed ways to turn Awqaf in Zanzibar into an effective tool to poverty eradication, youth empowerment, and sustainable economic development? So there's 3 issues here: poverty eradication, because when you looked at the original aims of the Waqf board there, Waqf Commission, you highlighted a few things there. You said it's directed to beneficiaries, it's Muslim and non-Muslim, religious aspects, education, poverty reduction, and you also talked about safeguarding and developing Muslim properties. And that seems to have been the original kind of aims and objectives. But now, today, as we speak, what is it that is being done, or what can be done for poverty eradication, youth empowerment, and also sustainability? And I think let's ask Dr. Issa Abdallah if he can answer that question, because he seems to have come from the Islamic finance area, and see what proposition he has for this.
Regarding to the poverty eradication, the main objective of Waqf is to help the needs in order to develop their life. And that's why I said during my presentation that something happens, the problem, but I want to mention that we need to establish a Waqf-based microfinance institution in order to help SMEs in Zanzibar. How this can be developed is now in the way of establishment of cash Waqf in Zanzibar. The endowments of the Waqf is divided into 3 aspects, like land, buildings, and cash. through casework, we can have a work-based microfinance in order to develop the SME, how this can be performed very well in order to alleviate poverty in Zanzibar.
No, sorry, you were saying the first one was the work-based microfinance, the second one?
The second one is integration of Waqf, zakat, and other Islamic sources of finance in order to help the Waqf institution to distribute or to divide their microfinance or their financing aspect to the society in order to develop their lives. It means that the Waqf alone sometimes cannot be very much experienced on that institution. And that's why we need to integrate between Waqf and other Islamic sources of finance in order to help the people or the needy in Zanzibar. And the last one is to develop another products like, as you said, educational work. This educational work, sometimes it helps in poverty eradication.
Can I just intervene there and ask Dr. Issa Ziddy to take over and to make some contribution there on, we're talking about now future challenges and also how is the current Waqf there actually contributing to poverty alleviation and education and so forth? What is the Waqf doing in terms of practical things? Apart from, I mean, Dr. Hikmany, Professor Hikmany mentioned the issue about restoration of those old buildings, but in terms of now getting to the people, getting to the beneficiaries that have been there all the time. And I want to come back to another question to you as well about the recording of all this knowledge.
Recording over?
The recording of you know, the history and all these documents that have been missing and all of that, you know, so we need to just, like you said, a lot of the history has been written by maybe foreign authors. We need to get indigenous knowledge about our own history as well. So, you know, just in terms of how is the Awqaf in Zanzibar assisting and contributing towards poverty reduction, towards education, and towards generally youth development and you know, the religious aspects of the community and a broader humanity there. They're probably non-Muslims in Zanzibar as well. And is the Waqf only focused on people in Zanzibar, or are there Waqfs that actually contribute to other parts of the world as well, transnational Waqfs?
Historically in Zanzibar, during the Sultan period, there was this transoceanic Waqf. And Zanzibar, as we said, that was one country between Oman and Zanzibar. So it was, there were special funds from Zanzibar because at that time Oman was, as you say, desert. So went there to build there. But also now, at that time also there in the area of education, there was, I conducted one research about the Waqf Zanzibar and education. And when we say education, we mean that the youth people. So there was the one successful Waqf before that, during the British period. And before that, it was under the Hindu Sunni Muslim Jamaat. They established school and in the Waqf way, and like a donation, Waqf, yeah. And then they managed to pay 8 teachers, but also they managed to have new buildings and like that. And today also in Zanzibar, we have some Waqf, even universities. We have a university that is like a Waqf, and not only mainly from Zanzibar, but from outside Zanzibar. We have Al-Sumayt University, also Zanzibar University is part of that. So we try, I think that the very important thing is that we are not living alone. We are living with others, and maybe even we are older, but we have to share experiences with others, like Awqaf South Africa. As we attended many conferences there, we have seen that they develop, they participate in the economy of the country, building bridges, building schools, building roads. So I think now Zanzibar is time to think of that issue. When I was a chairperson of the board commission before Prof. Hikmany, we were discussing about that issue, but still we wanted to register all Waqfs, because still there are some Waqf until today they are not known. Some of them are known, but they are under the people's. They are the one. It is not registered in the Waqf. Before that, it was Waqf, but now it is in the hand of the other people. So I think there is a need to register and to understand, but also to invest in that Waqf and to study, to learn from others what they are doing. About the recording of the true history of Zanzibar, not only Waqf, but true history of Zanzibar, there are some measures are working. The first one is to try to make research of those documents. Many of documents that time was written in Arabic language. So there is in the university, there is part of that. We try to make research, and even some documents in the Waqf in the department here of archive are still there, but still because few people are understanding Arabic language, so they need also to be reviewed and people to see what is there about it. But still, there are many documents now. People, they go there to understand about their buildings, about who owns the buildings, many issues. So I think we need to work a big work again to understand different issues, including how many Waqfs we have, and also how we can invest them. As Dr. Abdallah said, Dr. Ussi, is that there is a need to think of Islamic as in totality, how Waqfs can do, how Islamic banking can do, and also others can do to help those in the country. The university that I said, Waqf, Islamic Waqf, but even some students are not Muslims also, because you know that our country also have other people not Muslim, but also teachers of them, some of them are not Muslim. Now it's not a big issue to work with other people as it was before. This is my contribution for that.
Okay, Jazakallah khairan. There's a question here, and maybe Professor Hikmany can answer this one here, that there seems to be a school in Zanzibar which is owned by a company, and that they wish to convert it to a Waqf, and they want to know whether that is possible.
A school,
Yes.
as a property, can be made Waqf. What they need to do is that they have full documentation of the land and the building, and with the company registration, they should have it, and then come to the Waqf Commission. There is a Waqf department. They will see the person in charge. They will draft a document to show that they are transferring the property from these owners to Awqaf, and where the benefits will go, who are the beneficiaries, and who will be the mutawalis of the Awqaf. It is will explain, but it's possible. It's possible. It's possible.
So in Zanzibar, you are allowed to have your own mutawallis. If I make a Waqf there, I can appoint my own mutawalli there.
Yes, but it must be stated in the document. Must be stated in the document, signed and registered at the Waqf.
Okay.
Yeah.
So another question: do you currently have a full register, or as much as possible, of all the Awqaf in Zanzibar? Do you have a full register? You know exactly.
As I said before, this is one of the challenges we're facing. We have a register, not very complete. We are currently doing research, collecting all the documents wherever they are to make the register full. But we have a register.
What would you say? What would you say? Would you have 50%? You have 80%? You have 10%? What would you say?
More than 80%. More than 80%.
More than
80%. More than 80% of the
more than 80%.
of the registers. Very
So,
few only, I will say.
so if one has to do research, you've got like the original documents, the Waqfiyya.
Yes.
You have a
And
Waqfiyya Hujjah.
as Dr. Ziddy said, this document, the old one, are written in the old scripts, very difficult to read. They're in Hindi, they're in Arabic, English, and Kiswahili, the old scripts. But they're available. They're available.
So are there people who can read all those scripts one way or the other?
Yes, they are. They are. They are people who can read all the scripts, Arabic, English, Kiswahili.
And how are the archives being protected? Are you digitizing the archives, or are they still in paper format?
They are both paper and digitalization. They are moving full digital. They are moving. But it's protected.
Okay. So, and perhaps a final question. In terms of the beneficiaries of those Awqaf, are they mainly family Awqaf, or are they mainly khairiyah, of charitable Awqaf?
I don't have a clear-cut answer on percentage or proportion, whether they are 50% society-based and 50% families. I cannot say, but I would say that they are both. They are both.
Okay. So those that are family-based, if they were done, say, in the 8th century, I'm sure that you won't be able to find those beneficiaries today.
Oh, no. Remember my presentation, I said beneficiaries are in two parts. Those are today and in the future. There is the Passover, there is inheritance. People, they move. I know a family, I know at least some families have been receiving benefits from the time of Sultan until now. But the question is the amount of money that is given. And the course of years, the amount becomes smaller, and people don't find it at all economic to go to town and collect this money. So they will maybe after 6 months they will collect one,
So
and sometimes they disappear.
Is there a law in Zanzibar today with the Waqf that you can still continue making Waqf Ahli or family Waqfs?
Yes, you can.
So it is possible.
It is possible.
And is there a limit to the number of generations that you can actually have your beneficiaries?
Well, the document will have to state that when these people are over, they finish, then the entire benefits go to the Muslim community.
Okay, so after those
two generations actually, two generations.
Okay.
After that, it goes to Muslim community.
Okay. Well, I think we've more or less come to the end of our program. I think it has really been very interesting. There are lots of other questions about the records, about Mutawalli's rights, how they are being safeguarded, what protection will there be for any future nationalization of the Awqaf. And I mean, I really found that this issue about British people coming in to actually confiscate or even use the Awqaf revenues for the war effort, for their war efforts. And I think it's really an indictment and a bitter pill to swallow for the Waqf sector, for us to actually have been through that type of instance, and I think that has happened in many other countries as well. And I hope that the effort now in Zanzibar, and perhaps you can elaborate on that as a final thing about how are we going to revive at a public level, at a cultural level, to make it to spread Waqf culture amongst the population?
Very quickly, I'll say in 3 ways. Number one, it's for the Waqf to go out and talk to people. But the other way, people like Professor Ziddy and Dr. Abdallah, who are still in the university, to participate in teaching and to ask our commission to have sessions at the university education institution to talk about Awqaf, to explain it, and to make it as a continuous program throughout, so that the people become aware about Awqaf, the children become aware, education institutions become aware, and the inheritance of Awqaf knowledge is passed over from generation to generation.
Sorry, can you, is there a proposal here that Professor Ziddy and others form a team of people to ensure that there's a course at the university on Waqf studies, number one?
Yes.
Number two is that in the, I don't know whether you have a traditional madrasa or your schools where you introduce a kind of a children's curriculum, and I think that I think Professor Issa Ziddy is a curriculum development expert there. Yes. So you can help develop this new type of curriculum, which is not just fiqh based, but also developmental and civilizational and forward-looking, and enliven this Waqf system for children and for adults and the public. And maybe a third thing is that the Waqf and Trust Commission there should also be taking some initiative in maybe funding or developing this whole new awareness and educational program. We are ready from South Africa and many other Awqaf institutions around the world, I think, to collaborate and to assist wherever we can in terms of development. We have, at this point in time, the waqfacademy.org, which is a website and a Waqf training program. And if maybe you can have a look at that, register yourself there, go through that course. It's everything is online, and you can perhaps encourage all your students to do that course and help us maybe as a collaboration, because we separated it from the Awqaf South Africa website as a special Waqf Academy website, so that we can actually make it a global website for everybody to participate and use. But we'd love you to be part of that and make your contribution in that particular program as well. And we can help develop that Waqf Academy to a level which can one day be accredited by your university as well, so that it becomes an accredited course where people can register and get the credit for it. Yeah. So can we, inshallah, work on those kind of issues so that we can progress the whole Waqf agenda, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jazakallah khairan to all our attendees, to our esteemed guest speakers, Professor Hikmany, Dr. Issa Ziddy, Dr. Ussi Abdallah. And we're also very happy to have the Center for, I think it's called the Center for Islamic Finance and Compliance and Advice, that's based in Tanzania. You are a member, you are all members of this organization, actually. And the Waqf and Trust Commission of Zanzibar, the World Awqaf Forum, our iSkill team that's been working in the background, who's been recording all the questions and providing technical support here. And of course, the Waqf Dialogue Forum, which was initiated by Dr. Sami Salahat and others. And we'd like to thank, I know that Dr. Hisham Dafterdar has also been on the site with us here. He's been one of our main supporters, actually internationally. He's well recognized in the areas of Waqf, and he's got tremendous experience in the area that I think Professor Hikmany and Dr. Ussi Abdallah mentioned about the build, operate, transfer mechanisms for developing Awqaf properties. There's possibilities with the Islamic Development Bank. I don't know if Tanzania is a member of the OIC, but if you're a member of IDB, then there's possibilities of assistance there. And hopefully, inshallah, we could continue our relationship going back into the future. Remember, we are in South Africa. We basically, I think, 3 or 4 hours away from you in terms of flight. We hope to develop closer relations with you as one ummah in this part of the world, inshallah. And we hope that, we will grow together, inshallah. So with those few words, I'll just, I'll ask Professor Hikmany to close off with a dua for all of us.
والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم افتح لنا أبواب رحمتك وادخلنا في طاعتك واغفر لذنوبنا وتقبل توبتنا وانصر على أعدائنا برحمتك الرحمن. فضل سبحان ربك بالعزة ما يصفون وسلام المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
آمين.
وفقنا الله وحفظه.
بارك الله فيك. جزاك الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.